The morning sun streamed through the blinds of Andre Wright's penthouse office, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany of his desk. He stared at the customer satisfaction report in his hands, his brow furrowed with concern. The numbers didn't lie. Something was wrong at his flagship electronics store downtown. Andre set the report down and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. 15 years ago, he'd been working out of his garage, fixing broken computers and selling refurbished phones. Now, Horizon Electronics had 37 locations across the country, with him at the helm as founder and CEO. But success had come with a price. When was the last time he'd actually been inside one of his own stores as a regular customer? When was the last time he'd experienced the business from the other side of the counter? "Mr. Wright?" His assistant Diane's voice came through the intercom. "Your 10 o'clock is here." Andre pressed the button. "Tell them I need 15 minutes, please." He returned to his desk and pulled up the customer reviews on his tablet. The complaints were vague but troubling. Staff seemed disinterested, felt ignored, had to wait while other customers were helped immediately. What bothered him most was that these reviews seemed to come disproportionately from certain demographics. Andre knew what it was like to be overlooked. Even now, with all his success, he sometimes entered high-end stores and watched as staff gravitated toward other customers. He'd built Horizon Electronics with a promise that everyone would receive the same exceptional service. The thought struck him suddenly. He needed to see for himself, not as Andre Wright, the CEO whose picture hung in every store, but as an ordinary customer. Andre called Diane into his office. She entered with her usual efficiency, notebook in hand. "I need to clear my schedule for tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow? But sir, you have the investor meeting and reschedule everything. Tell them something came up, and I need you to keep this between us." Diane raised an eyebrow but nodded. In 15 years, she'd never known him to cancel meetings without good reason. "I'm going undercover," Andre explained, leaning forward. "I want to experience our stores the way our customers do. No special treatment, no advance warning." "That's actually brilliant," Diane said, making notes. "Which locations?" "I'll start with downtown. That's where most of these complaints are coming from." That evening, Andre stood before his closet, pushing aside tailored suits and designer shirts. At the back, he found what he was looking for: old jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a hoodie he sometimes wore on weekends. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed, "I can afford anything in the store." His wife Tanya appeared in the doorway, amused. "What are you doing? Going back to college?" Andre laughed. "Sort of. I'm going back to basics." He explained his plan as he tried on the casual clothes. Tanya sat on the edge of their bed, watching him transform from polished executive to everyday guy. "You know, this reminds me of when we first met. Before all," she gestured around their luxurious bedroom, "this. When I was just a guy with big dreams fixing computers out of my garage." Andre smiled at the memory. "And I was the only one who believed those dreams weren't crazy." She stood and straightened his hoodie. "So what exactly are you hoping to find tomorrow?" Andre's expression grew serious. "I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'll discover everything's fine and those reviews are just outliers. But if there's a problem in my company, especially the kind of problem I fought against my whole career, I need to see it firsthand." "You built this company on treating everyone equally," Tanya said. "If someone's not upholding that, you need to know." That night, Andre slept restlessly. He dreamed of his early days, of doors closed in his face when he tried to secure funding, of potential business partners who couldn't envision him as the face of a major electronics chain. He'd proven them all wrong, building Horizon Electronics into a billion-dollar company, known for its innovative products and exceptional customer service. But what if that vision was slipping away without him noticing? Morning came quickly. Andre skipped his usual protein shake and opted for a quick coffee instead. He left his luxury watch on the nightstand and wore his old reliable Timex. No wedding ring, no cufflinks, nothing that might hint at his status. He even drove his old Camry instead of the Tesla he usually took to work. As he navigated through morning traffic, Andre mentally prepared himself. It had been years since he'd walked into a store without people recognizing him, without staff straightening up at his arrival. Would his own employees treat him differently if they didn't know who he was? He parked a few blocks away from the downtown store. intentionally choosing a spot that wouldn't be associated with the CEO's visit. The walk gave him time to settle into his role. Just another customer looking for help with electronics. Outside the store, Andre paused to take it in from a fresh perspective. The Horizon Electronics logo glowed in blue and silver against the modern glass facade. Through the windows, he could see customers browsing and staff moving about in their blue polo shirts with the company emblem. His heart swelled with pride. From a garage to this, it was still amazing to him sometimes. But pride couldn't blind him to potential problems. He needed to see the truth. Andre took a deep breath and pulled his hood up slightly. Not enough to look suspicious, but enough to change his appearance from the photos hanging in the break room. Then he walked through the automatic doors into the busy store. The familiar smell of new electronics and the soft background music greeted him. Digital displays showcased the latest phones and laptops. The store was moderately busy for a weekday morning, a good time to observe without the weekend rush. Nobody approached him immediately. Andre wandered toward the smartphone section, genuinely curious about how the new displays looked from a customer's perspective. The latest Horizon-branded phones were arranged alongside competitors' models. After a few minutes of browsing undisturbed, Andre glanced around for assistance. 3 employees were on the floor. One was deep in conversation with a couple looking at laptops. Another was ringing up a purchase at the register. The third, a young man with a name tag reading Tyler, was organizing a display nearby. Occasionally checking his phone when he thought no one was looking, Andre moved closer to Tyler's area, making it obvious he was waiting for help. Tyler glanced up, made brief eye contact, then went back to his task. Andre picked up one of the premium phones, looking at it with clear interest, the universal signal of a customer ready to buy. Still nothing. A minute passed. Then another. Andre watched as Tyler finished his display, then walked past him to help an older woman who had just entered the store. The woman was dressed fashionably, designer purse on her arm, looking exactly like someone who could afford the top-tier products. Andre felt a familiar tightness in his chest, one he hadn't experienced in years, but remembered all too well. Was he being overlooked? Or was he being oversensitive? He decided to be direct. "Excuse me," he called to Tyler as the employee walked by again. "I could use some help with these phones when you get a chance." Tyler barely slowed down. "Someone will be with you soon," he said, not making eye contact. Andre watched as soon stretched into 5 more minutes. He observed as Tyler helped 2 more customers who had entered after him. Both were dressed more professionally than Andre in his casual clothes. This was exactly what the reviews had described. Not outright refusal, nothing so obvious that could be easily identified and addressed. Just selective attention, prioritizing certain customers over others based on how they looked, who might spend more, who matched Tyler's idea of a real customer. The realization hit Andre with a mix of disappointment and determination. This wasn't just about poor customer service. This was about the very values his company stood for being ignored on the front lines. He decided to stay longer, to see if this was an isolated incident or a pattern. Andre moved to another section of the store, watching the employees interact with different customers. Some staff were clearly attentive to everyone. Others, like Tyler, seemed to make split-second judgments about who deserved their time. By the time Andre left the store an hour later, he hadn't made a purchase. No one had ever come to help him, despite the store not being particularly busy. But he had gathered something more valuable than any product. He had seen the truth with his own eyes. Sitting in his car, Andre pulled out his phone and made notes while everything was fresh in his mind. Names, times, specific interactions he'd witnessed. Tomorrow he would visit another location, and the day after another. By the end of the week he would have a complete picture, and then he would address it, not with anger, but with the same determination that had built Horizon Electronics from nothing into an empire. Because Andre, Wright hadn't overcome every obstacle in his path just to let his own company become part of the problem he'd fought against his entire life. He started the car, his mind already forming a plan. This wasn't just about customer satisfaction scores anymore. This was about staying true to the values that had been the foundation of everything he'd built. "Time to get back to basics," he murmured to himself as he pulled away from the curb. Andre arrived at the downtown store again the next morning. this time dressed slightly better than the day before. Dark jeans and a plain button-up shirt, but still nothing that screamed wealth or status. He wanted to see if a small change in appearance would affect how he was treated. The store was busier today. A steady stream of customers moved between displays of the latest electronics. Andre noticed immediately that Tyler was working again, this time stationed near the premium laptop section. Two other employees he recognized from yesterday were also on the floor, along with a young woman he hadn't seen before. Her name tag read Zoe. Andre decided to try a different approach today. Instead of waiting to be helped, he would directly ask for assistance. He made his way to where Tyler was arranging a display of the newest Horizon laptop, the one Andre had personally overseen the development of just 6 months ago. "Excuse me," Andre said, putting on his most pleasant smile. "I'm looking to upgrade my home office setup. Could you tell me about these laptops?" Tyler glanced up, his eyes quickly scanning Andre from head to toe. "These are our premium models," he said flatly. "They start at $1,200. His tone carried an unspoken question. "Are you sure you can afford these?" "That's within my budget," Andre replied evenly. "What makes them worth the investment?" Tyler shrugged. "They're fast. Good for work stuff." His explanation lacked any enthusiasm or detail, a stark contrast to the sales training Andre knew every employee received. "Could you show me the features?" Andre pressed. "Look," Tyler said, lowering his voice. "These are pretty advanced machines. Maybe you'd be more comfortable with something basic?" He gestured toward the budget section across the store. "Those are more accessible." The implication hung in the air between them. Andre felt a familiar burn in his chest. The same feeling he'd experienced countless times throughout his career when someone underestimated him based on his appearance. "I'm actually interested in the premium models," Andre insisted calmly. "I run my own business." Tyler's phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked it quickly. "I need to help someone at the register. Zoe can help you with the basic models when she's free." Without waiting for a response, he walked away, heading not toward the register but toward a well-dressed couple who had just entered the store. Andre watched as Tyler greeted the couple warmly, his entire demeanor transforming. Suddenly he was animated, knowledgeable, eager to help. Everything he hadn't been with Andre. "Unbelievable," Andre muttered under his breath. He'd suspected this kind of treatment was happening, but experiencing it firsthand in his own store was something else entirely. He glanced around and noticed Zoe finishing up with another customer. Unlike Tyler, she seemed genuinely engaged with everyone she helped. Andre watched as she patiently explained features to an elderly man who was clearly not tech-savvy. She never rushed him or made him feel foolish for his questions. When she finished, Andre approached her. "Hi, I'm looking for help with laptops. The premium ones," Zoe smiled. "Of course. Are you looking for something for work or personal use?" "Both, actually. I need something powerful enough for video editing and running multiple programs at once." "Perfect. Let me show you our Horizon ProBook series. These just came out 2 months ago, and they're amazing for creative professionals." Her enthusiasm was genuine as she led him to the display. For the next 15 minutes, Zoe walked Andre through the features of different models, never once questioning whether he could afford them or suggesting he look at cheaper options. She asked about his specific needs, demonstrated the touchscreen capabilities, and even mentioned a promotion that could save him money on software. "How long have you worked here?" Andre asked as she finished her thorough explanation. "Just 3 weeks," Zoe replied. "I'm still learning, but I love it so far. The company has such great values, you know. The founder has this whole philosophy about making technology accessible to everyone and treating all customers with respect. We learned about it in training." Andre felt a complex mix of emotions, pride that his vision was being taught to new employees, and disappointment that not everyone was putting it into practice. "That sounds like a good philosophy," he said carefully. "Do you think everyone here follows it?" Zoe hesitated. "I think most people try to, but you know how it is. Some people have assumptions." She lowered her voice. "Between us, I've noticed some of my coworkers are more helpful to certain customers. It's not right." "No," Andre agreed. "It's not." After thanking Zoe for her help, Andre decided to continue his observation. He moved around the store, pretending to browse while actually watching the staff interact with different customers. The pattern became clear. Tyler wasn't the only one showing preferential treatment. Another employee, a man named Rick according to his name tag, also seemed to make quick judgments about which customers deserved his attention. Andre watched as Rick enthusiastically helped a young professional-looking woman buy accessories for her phone. Then moments later gave curt minimal responses to a teenager who wanted information about gaming controllers. But there were also employees like Zoe who treated everyone equally. A middle-aged woman named Patty spent 10 minutes helping a man in work clothes find the right tablet for his daughter, showing the same patience and attention she'd given to a business executive earlier. After 2 hours of observation, Andre had seen enough. The problem wasn't company-wide, but it wasn't isolated either. It was a culture that had developed in pockets, unchecked and perhaps unnoticed by management. As he prepared to leave, Andre spotted the store manager, Keith, emerging from the back office. Andre recognized him from regional meetings, though they'd never spoken one-on-one. Keith was talking with another employee, pointing to something on a tablet screen, completely unaware that the CEO of the entire company was standing 20 feet away in casual clothes. Andre wondered if Keith knew about the different treatment some customers received. Was he oblivious or was he part of the problem? Tomorrow, Andre decided he would put Keith to the test. On his way out, Andre passed Tyler again. This time, Tyler was helping a woman in an expensive-looking suit choose between phone models, giving her his full attention and expert advice, all things he'd withheld from Andre. Outside in the parking lot, Andre sat in his car and made detailed notes about everything he'd witnessed. Names, times, specific interactions. The contrast between employees like Zoe and Tyler couldn't be more stark. One embodied everything Andre had built Horizon Electronics to be. The other represented the very attitudes Andre had fought against his entire career. He called Diane from his car. "How's the undercover mission going?" she asked. "Eye-opening," Andre replied. "I need you to pull the personnel files for the downtown store and get me the training materials they're currently using. I want to see exactly what new hires like Zoe are being taught versus what longer-term employees like Tyler received when they started." "You found something," Diane observed. "It wasn't a question. I found exactly what I was afraid of," Andre confirmed, "and it ends now." That evening, Andre sat in his home office reviewing the files Diane had sent over. Tyler had been with the company for 3 years, hired during a period of rapid expansion when training might have been less thorough. His performance reviews were adequate but noted room for improvement in customer engagement. Nothing specifically mentioned discriminatory behavior, but would a manager like Keith even notice it? Andre thought about his options. He could fire Tyler and anyone else showing the same behavior. That would be the easy solution. But would it solve the underlying problem? Would it create meaningful change? No, Andre decided. This required something more thoughtful, something that addressed the root causes and created lasting impact. If some employees were falling short of the company's values, that was ultimately a failure of leadership, his leadership. He picked up his phone and called Tanya. "I need your perspective on something," he said when she answered. For the next hour, they discussed what he'd observed and potential ways to address it. Tanya, with her background in organizational psychology, offered insights Andre hadn't considered. "It's not just about punishing the bad apples," she said. "It's about strengthening the entire culture so this behavior becomes unthinkable for anyone who works there." By the time they finished talking, Andre had the beginnings of a plan. Tomorrow would be his final day undercover. He would interact directly with Keith, the store manager, and then, depending on what he learned, he would put his plan into action. As he finally set his notes aside for the night, Andre felt a renewed sense of purpose. The company he'd built was facing a challenge to its core values. But within that challenge was an opportunity to make Horizon Electronics not just a successful business, but a model for the kind of change he wanted to see in the world. With that thought, Andre turned off the light, knowing tomorrow would be the most important day of his undercover journey. Day 3 of Andre's undercover mission began with a light rain tapping against the windows of his car. He sat in the parking lot of the downtown store, watching employees hurry inside to start their shifts. Today's objective was clear: interact directly with Keith, the store manager, and see how leadership handled the issues he'd observed. Andre had dressed more professionally today. Khaki pants and a collared shirt, still casual but neat. Nothing that screamed wealth, but nothing that could be used as an excuse for poor service either. He waited until he spotted Keith arriving before he entered the store. Inside, the morning was quiet. A few customers browsed sleepily, coffee cups in hand. Keith was in conversation with a group of employees near the back, likely giving the morning briefing. Andre recognized Tyler among them, along with Zoe and several others he'd observed over the past 2 days. As the group dispersed to their positions, Andre approached Keith directly. The manager was a tall man in his 40s with a meticulously trimmed beard and the confident posture of someone comfortable in authority. "Excuse me," Andre said. "I was hoping to speak with the manager." Keith turned, his customer service smile already in place. "That would be me. Keith Wilson. How can I help you today? I've been in your store the past couple of days looking at laptops and phones. I've noticed something concerning about how different customers are being treated." Keith's smile faltered slightly. "I'm sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem?" "I've observed certain employees being very helpful and attentive to some customers while dismissing others. There seems to be a pattern to who gets good service and who doesn't." Keith's expression shifted to something more guarded. "That's a serious allegation. Can you be more specific about what you've seen?" Andre described several of the interactions he'd witnessed, being careful not to immediately identify himself as the customer who'd been brushed off. He wanted to see how Keith would handle a complaint without knowing it came from the CEO. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention," Keith said when Andre finished. "Customer service is our priority, and we don't tolerate any kind of discrimination. If you'd like to file a formal complaint, I can get you the paperwork." Andre noted the defensive posture, the way Keith was already moving toward procedure, rather than showing genuine concern. "I'm not interested in paperwork. I'm interested in knowing what you'll actually do about it." Keith's professional facade cracked slightly. "Sir, I assure you we take these matters seriously, but without specific evidence, it's difficult to address. Sometimes customers misinterpret busy employees as being dismissive. So you're suggesting I misinterpreted being told to look at more accessible models when I asked about premium laptops?" Andre kept his voice level but firm. "That's not... I didn't mean..." Keith backpedaled. "Which employee was this?" "Tyler," Andre said. "But I've seen similar behavior from others. And I've also seen excellent service from employees like Zoe, who treat everyone with equal respect." At the mention of specific names, Keith's demeanor changed. This was no longer a vague complaint he could dismiss. "I'll certainly speak with Tyler about this. We do train all our staff to provide excellent service to everyone. But do you monitor whether that training is being applied consistently?" Andre pressed. Keith hesitated. "We have mystery shoppers occasionally. Our customer satisfaction scores have been good overall." "Overall scores can hide specific problems," Andre pointed out. "Have you ever broken down those scores by demographics? Or sent mystery shoppers from different backgrounds?" The questions clearly made Keith uncomfortable. "That's not something we've implemented at the store level. Those decisions would come from corporate." Andre had heard enough. Keith wasn't actively promoting discrimination, but he wasn't actively preventing it either. He was managing to metrics without looking deeper at the human experiences behind those numbers. "Thank you for your time," Andre said. "I'd like to continue looking around if that's all right." "Of course," Keith replied, visibly relieved to end the conversation. "And I'll definitely address this with the team." Andre moved away, pretending to browse while actually watching Keith. The manager immediately went to Tyler, pulling him aside for a conversation. From their body language, Andre could tell it was a reprimand of sorts, but a mild one, the kind given when a supervisor feels obligated to say something, but doesn't consider the matter truly serious. After a brief exchange, Tyler returned to his position, looking annoyed but not particularly concerned. Keith disappeared into his office without speaking to any other employees. Andre shook his head slightly. This was exactly the problem. Surface-level responses without addressing the deeper issues. A quick word with one employee wouldn't change the culture. He decided to test whether Keith's intervention had any immediate effect. Andre approached Tyler again, this time asking about smart home devices. Tyler's assistance was marginally better than before. He answered Andre's questions with basic information, but there was still none of the enthusiasm or detailed knowledge Andre had seen him offer to other customers. The difference was subtle enough that a manager not specifically looking for it might miss it entirely. Andre thanked Tyler and moved on, continuing his observation of the store. He noticed Zoe helping an elderly couple with great patience, showing them how to set up video calling so they could talk to their grandchildren. Her genuine care was evident in every interaction. The contrast between employees like Zoe and Tyler was striking. Both had received the same training, worked in the same environment under the same manager. Yet their approaches to customer service couldn't be more different. As Andre contemplated this, a new customer entered the store, a young man in a hoodie and jeans, not unlike how Andre had dressed on his first day undercover. Andre watched as the young man stood near the phone displays, clearly waiting for assistance. Several minutes passed. Employees walked by. No one stopped to help. Andre felt a knot form in his stomach as he watched history repeat itself. He'd seen enough. He pulled out his phone and texted Diane, "I'm ready. Send the email now." 3 minutes later, Keith emerged from his office looking flustered. He gathered all available employees for an impromptu meeting near the back of the store. Andre couldn't hear what was being said, but he could see the shocked expressions and nervous glances. After the brief meeting, the employees dispersed with new urgency. Keith himself approached the young man in the hoodie, offering assistance with a completely different demeanor than before. Andre smiled slightly. The email from corporate announcing an imminent visit from the CEO had done its job. Now it was time for the final phase of his plan. He approached Keith again. "Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing. Is something happening today?" Keith looked distracted. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're preparing for an important visitor. The CEO of the company is making a surprise visit this afternoon. I can still help you with anything you need." "Actually," Andre said, extending his hand, "I think I can help you." "Andre, right? I believe you're expecting me." The color drained from Keith's face as recognition dawned. His mouth opened and closed without words. "But you've been here." "The past few days, I have," Andre confirmed, "experiencing our stores the way our customers do. Learning some valuable lessons about where we're succeeding and where we're falling short." Keith looked like he might faint. "Mr. Wright, I can explain." Andre held up a hand. "There's nothing to explain. I've seen everything I need to see. But we do need to talk, not just you and I, but the entire team. I'd like to use your office if that's all right." Keith nodded numbly, leading Andre toward the back. As they walked, employees began to notice, whispers spreading quickly. Tyler's eyes widened in shock as he realized who had been asking him about laptops. Zoe looked confused, not yet understanding the significance of what was happening. In Keith's office, Andre sat down calmly. "I'm not here to fire anyone today," he said, watching Keith visibly relax. "I'm here because I care deeply about this company and what it stands for. What I've seen these past few days shows me we have work to do. Mr. Wright, I want to assure you that any issues with customer service will be addressed immediately. If certain employees haven't been meeting our standards—" "This isn't about individual employees," Andre interrupted. "It's about our culture. It's about what we truly value versus what we say we value. And fixing that starts with leadership, mine included." Keith fell silent, finally understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'd like to speak with your entire team," Andre continued. "Not to point fingers or assign blame, but to have an honest conversation about who we are and who we want to be as a company." Keith nodded, reaching for the store intercom. As he announced an all-hands meeting in 5 minutes, Andre prepared himself for the most important conversation of his career, not as an angry boss ready to punish, but as a leader ready to transform a moment of failure into an opportunity for growth. The real work was just beginning. The conference room at the back of the store wasn't designed for all-hands meetings. Employees stood shoulder to shoulder, some leaning against walls, others perched on the edges of tables. The air felt thick with tension and confusion. Most of the staff had no idea why they'd been suddenly gathered, only that something unprecedented was happening. Andre sat quietly at the head of the table, watching as the last few employees filtered in. Keith stood nervously to his right, occasionally wiping his palms on his pants. Tyler had positioned himself near the back, arms crossed defensively. Zoe, still new enough to be curious rather than worried, found a spot where she could see everything. When everyone was present, Keith cleared his throat. "Team, I'd like to introduce Mr. Andre Wright. the founder and CEO of Horizon Electronics. A wave of murmurs swept through the room. Some employees looked shocked, others confused. A few who had been with the company longer immediately recognized Andre from company videos and announcements. "Thank you, Keith," Andre said, standing up. He took a moment to look around the room, making eye contact with as many employees as possible. "For those who don't recognize me, yes, I'm the guy who's been in your store for the past 3 days looking at laptops, phones, and other products." The murmurs grew louder. Tyler's face had gone pale. "I'm not here to fire anyone," Andre continued, and the room collectively exhaled. "I'm here because I care deeply about this company and what we stand for. I built Horizon Electronics from nothing because I believed everyone deserved access to technology and exceptional service regardless of who they are or what they look like." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The past few days have shown me that somewhere along the way, that vision has become blurred for some of us. I've experienced firsthand how differently customers can be treated in our stores based on snap judgments about who they are." Several employees shifted uncomfortably. Others looked confused or concerned. "I want to be very clear," Andre said, his voice firm but not angry. "This isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. This is about recognizing a problem and fixing it together, because if we can't live up to our own values, then what are we really building here?" He turned to Keith. "Can we get the door closed, please? I'd like this to be a conversation where everyone feels safe speaking honestly." As Keith closed the door, Andre continued, "I'd like to share some specific examples of what I observed, not to embarrass anyone, but to illustrate patterns that might be happening without us even realizing it." Andre described several scenarios he'd witnessed over the past 3 days. Customers ignored based on their appearance, assumptions made about purchasing power, the stark difference in service quality depending on who was asking for help. He never mentioned specific employees by name, focusing instead on the patterns and their impact. "When I was dressed casually on my first day here, I waited 17 minutes for help that never came. Yesterday, dressed a bit better, I received minimal assistance but was directed toward less expensive options without anyone asking about my needs or budget. I watched as other customers received immediate, enthusiastic service. The only difference was how we looked. The room had gone completely silent. Now I also saw something else," Andre continued, his tone warming. "I saw employees like Zoe who treated every single person with the same respect and attention, regardless of appearance. I saw Patty spend just as much time with a construction worker buying a tablet for his daughter as she did with a business executive. That tells me this isn't a universal problem. It's a matter of mindset and awareness." Zoe straightened slightly at the mention of her name, looking surprised and a little proud. "I'm curious," Andre said, opening up the conversation. "Why do you think this happens? And please speak freely. This isn't about punishment. It's about understanding." There was a long, uncomfortable silence. Then from the back of the room, a hand went up. It was Rick, one of the employees Andre had observed showing preferential treatment. "Honestly, sir," Rick said hesitantly, "sometimes it's about commission. We make assumptions about who's going to spend money and who's just browsing. It's not right, but it happens," Andre nodded. "Thank you for your honesty." "Anyone else?" Another employee spoke up. "I think sometimes it's unconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it. I'm embarrassed to admit that I probably do this too sometimes." More employees began to share, the conversation slowly opening up. Some talked about pressure to meet sales targets. Others mentioned how they'd been treated as customers in other stores. A few admitted they'd never really thought about it before. Tyler remained silent at the back, arms still crossed. After several minutes of discussion, Andre held up his hand. "Thank you all for your honesty. It takes courage to look at ourselves this way. Now I'd like to talk about solutions because this stops today." He outlined a series of immediate changes. A revision of the commission structure to reward customer satisfaction rather than just sales volume. New training programs focused on recognizing and addressing unconscious bias. Mystery shoppers from diverse backgrounds. Regular team discussions about inclusivity. But policy changes are only part of the solution, Andre continued. Real change happens when we commit to it personally, when we catch ourselves making assumptions and consciously choose differently. He turned to face Tyler directly, the first time he'd singled anyone out. Sometimes the hardest growth comes from facing our biggest blind spots. I believe everyone in this room is capable of that growth if they choose it. Tyler's eyes dropped to the floor. Andre stood up. I'll be working with Keith and the regional manager to implement these changes starting today. But I want to end with a story. The room quieted again. 15 years ago, before Horizon Electronics existed, I walked into a high-end electronics store with a check for $10,000 to buy equipment for my startup. I was ignored for 45 minutes. When I finally asked for help, the salesperson directed me to the budget section without asking what I needed or could afford. I left and spent that money elsewhere. Andre paused, the memory still sharp after all these years. I promised myself that if I ever had my own company, every single customer would be treated with dignity and respect. That promise became the foundation of Horizon Electronics. It's why we exist, and I refuse to let it become just words on a mission statement. He looked around the room one more time. We can be better than that. We will be better than that. Starting right now, the meeting dispersed with a new energy. Some employees looked thoughtful. Others seemed relieved or inspired. Keith immediately pulled out his notebook, already working on implementation plans. Zoe approached several colleagues deep in animated conversation about customer experiences. As people filed out, Andre noticed Tyler hanging back, clearly wanting to speak privately. When the room had emptied, Andre nodded to him. "Mr. Wright," Tyler began, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. I don't know what to say. I've been working here for 3 years and I never thought the person you dismissed might be the CEO?" Andre asked. "No," Tyler said, shaking his head. "I never thought about how it felt to be on the receiving end of that treatment. I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it." Andre studied him for a moment. "The question is, what are you going to do now that you do see it?" Tyler looked up, meeting Andre's eyes directly for the first time. "I want to do better. I really do. I'm embarrassed by how I acted, but more than that, I'm embarrassed that it took something like this for me to realize it." Andre nodded slowly. "Self-awareness is the first step, but it has to be followed by action." "I know," Tyler said. "I don't expect you to believe me right now, but I'd like the chance to prove it, to show that I can change." Andre considered this. He'd come into the store ready to clean house if necessary, but he'd also seen the value of transformative moments. Sometimes the most powerful advocates for change were those who'd experienced their own awakening. "I believe people can grow, Tyler. I've seen it happen, but I need more than words. I need to see consistent action." "What can I do?" Tyler asked. "I want to make this right." Andre thought for a moment. "First, I want you to work closely with Zoe for the next 2 weeks. Observe how she interacts with customers. Learn from her approach. Second, I'm going to have you participate in developing our new training program. Your perspective, as someone who recognizes their own biases, could be valuable to others." Tyler nodded eagerly. "I can do that." "I will do that." "Good," Andre said, "because I'll be checking in personally. This store is going to become a model for the changes we need to make company-wide." As Tyler left, Keith approached cautiously. "Mr. Wright, about my position. I understand if you feel I haven't been the leader this store needs." Andre regarded him thoughtfully. "Leadership isn't just about spotting problems, Keith. It's about creating environments where problems can't hide, where everyone feels responsible for upholding our values. You missed what was happening here, and that's on you. But how you respond now, that's what will define your future with this company." Keith straightened his shoulders. "I won't let you down." "I hope not," Andre replied, "because I'm making this location our pilot store for all the new initiatives. You'll be working directly with our diversity and training teams to implement and refine everything before we roll it out nationally. It's your chance to be part of the solution in a big way." As Andre left the store that afternoon, he felt a mix of emotions: disappointment at what he'd discovered, but hope for what might grow from this experience. The company he'd built wasn't perfect, but it could learn and evolve. That had always been the point, not perfection, but progress. He called Diane from the car. "Get the executive team together for tomorrow morning. We have work to do." "That bad?" she asked. "That important," Andre corrected. "We're going back to our roots. And this time, we're going to get it right." As he drove away, Andre glanced at the store in his rearview mirror. The problems he'd uncovered weren't unique to Horizon Electronics. They reflected wider societal issues. But that didn't mean he couldn't make a difference, starting with the company he'd built with his own hands. Sometimes, The most powerful change began with simply seeing the truth. 6 months had passed since Andre's undercover journey through his own stores. The morning sun streamed through the windows of his office as he reviewed the latest company reports, a smile growing on his face with each page he turned. The customer satisfaction scores for the downtown store had risen dramatically, now ranking highest in the entire company. More importantly, when broken down by demographics, a new metric Andre had insisted on implementing, the scores showed consistent satisfaction across all customer groups. Andre set down the report and stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city. In half a year, so much had changed, not just at the downtown location but throughout Horizon Electronics. The ripples from those 3 days had spread far and wide, transforming the company in ways even Andre hadn't fully anticipated. His phone buzzed with a message from Diane. "They're ready for you downstairs." Today marked the official launch of the Horizon Equal Access Initiative, a company-wide program that had grown from Andre's undercover experience. What had started as a response to problems in one store had evolved into something much bigger. A comprehensive approach to ensuring every customer received the same exceptional service regardless of their appearance, background, or purchasing power. Andre took the elevator to the first floor, where a small crowd had gathered in the company's main lobby. Executives stood alongside store employees, including several from the downtown location. Regional managers mingled with new hires. At the center of it all was a podium with the Horizon logo and a banner announcing the new initiative. As Andre approached, he spotted familiar faces in the crowd. Keith, still managing the downtown store but now also heading up the company's new training program. Zoe, recently promoted to assistant manager based on her exceptional performance. And somewhat to Andre's surprise, Tyler, who had undergone perhaps the most remarkable transformation of all. After their confrontation 6 months ago, Andre had given Tyler a challenge rather than a termination notice. The results had exceeded his expectations. Tyler had not only improved his own behavior, but had become an advocate for change, sharing his story openly with other employees as a powerful example of unconscious bias and the possibility of growth. Andre stepped up to the podium, looking out at the assembled group. 6 months ago, he began, I walked into our downtown store dressed in jeans and a hoodie. I stood there for 17 minutes while employees walked past me to help other customers. Not a single person asked if I needed assistance. The room was silent, everyone hanging on his words. It would have been easy to get angry, to fire people, to write a stern company-wide memo and consider the problem solved. But that wouldn't have addressed the real issue. Because what I experienced that day wasn't unique to Horizon Electronics, it reflects patterns that exist throughout our society. Andre paused, making eye contact with various people in the audience. What makes us different is how we respond when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Do we get defensive, make excuses, or do we see it as an opportunity to grow and become better than we were before? He gestured to the banner behind him. The Equal Access Initiative we're launching today isn't just about customer service, training, or mystery shoppers or revised commission structures, though it includes all of those things. It's about building a company culture where every person who walks through our doors is seen, valued, and respected, where assumptions and biases are recognized and challenged, where we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Andre stepped out from behind the podium, preferring to speak more directly. Over the past 6 months, we've piloted these changes at our downtown location. The results have been remarkable, not just in terms of metrics and sales, though those have improved significantly, but in the experiences of our customers and employees. Today, we begin implementing these changes company-wide. He turned toward Keith, Zoe, and Tyler. I want to thank the downtown team for their openness to change and their willingness to lead the way, particularly Keith, who took a challenging moment and turned it into an opportunity to become a better leader. Zoe, whose natural empathy and respect for every customer set an example for all of us. And Tyler. Andre smiled at the young man who had once dismissed him. Tyler could have responded to criticism with defensiveness or simply gone through the motions of compliance. Instead, he embraced the opportunity for genuine growth. His willingness to share his own journey has become one of our most powerful training tools, helping others recognize patterns in themselves they might otherwise have missed. Tyler nodded, a mixture of embarrassment and pride on his face. The changes we're implementing today include concrete policies, Andre continued, addressing the whole room again. Revised training for all employees, new hiring practices, regular audits using mystery shoppers from diverse backgrounds, mentorship programs, a completely restructured commission system that rewards customer satisfaction rather than just sales volume. He picked up a sleek black box from the podium. We're also introducing new technology. This feedback device will be at every store exit, allowing customers to rate their experience with specific attention to whether they felt respected and valued. The data will be visible to everyone in the company, creating transparency and accountability at all levels. Andre set down the device and his tone became more reflective. But the most important changes can't be mandated by policy. They happen in moments of individual choice, when we catch ourselves making assumptions and choose differently. When we recognize that the person in worn jeans might be a CEO, or might be someone who saved for months to make a special purchase, or might simply be a human being deserving of respect, regardless of what they're buying or wearing. The room was completely silent. Everyone focused on his words. I built this company because I believe technology should be accessible to everyone, and everyone deserves to be treated with dignity when they walk into a store. Somewhere along the way, we drifted from that vision in small ways that added up to significant failures. Today, we course correct. Today, we recommit to the values that made Horizon Electronics worth building in the first place. Andre raised his glass of water in a toast, to seeing people as they are, not as we assume them to be, and to becoming better tomorrow than we are today. The crowd applauded warmly as Andre stepped away from the podium. The formal presentation was followed by a reception where employees from different stores and departments mingled, sharing experiences and ideas. Andre moved through the room listening more than talking, taking in the energy and commitment he felt all around him. At one point, he found himself standing with Keith, Zoe, and Tyler, the three people who had most directly influenced the company's new direction. I never got to properly thank you, Tyler said quietly to Andre. Not just for giving me another chance, but for waking me up, I guess. I didn't realize how much I was missing by making quick judgments about people. We all have blind spots, Andre replied. The question is what we do when they're pointed out to us. The new training program is making a real difference, Keith added. Having employees share their own experiences, both as customers, who've faced discrimination, and as employees, who've recognized their own biases. It hits different than just going through hypothetical scenarios. Zoe, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. The best part is how it's changing the feeling in the store. Customers notice it. They comment on it all the time. There's just a different energy now. Andre nodded, pleased. That's exactly what we wanted. A culture shift, not just a policy change. As the event wound down, Andre found himself back in his office, reflecting on the journey of the past 6 months. He pulled out his phone and called Tanya. How did it go? She asked when she answered. Better than I expected, Andre replied. There's real buy-in across the company. People are engaged with this in a way I haven't seen before. You turned a negative experience into positive change, Tanya observed. That's leadership. It's also just the beginning, Andre said. We've made good progress, but this isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing commitment. Speaking of ongoing commitments, Tanya said, don't forget we're due at Zoe's Community Center volunteer event this weekend. The kids are excited to learn about technology from actual Horizon Electronics employees. Andre smiled. This was another unexpected outcome of the past 6 months. A new community outreach program suggested by Zoe that brought technology education to underserved neighborhoods. What had started as a personal project for her had quickly gained company support and volunteer participation from dozens of employees, including Tyler and Keith.